How do we combine the two thoughts, honoring God and loving ourselves?
Sometimes those seem like two contradictory points, but today we want to talk through what it means to actually love ourselves as Christian women.
Yeah, because we know that sometimes our thoughts, when we look in the mirror, are very negative.
Yeah.
That is not loving ourselves, and it is not honoring God. Because
Exactly.
God made us unique and special. And so when we have all these negative thoughts coming to our mind when we look at ourselves, I'm pretty sure that God is grieving when we
Speak hate over ourselves.
Yeah.
Because really that's what's happening. When we look in the mirror and say, oh, I hate the way I look. I'm so fat. I'm so ugly. I'm so unworthy. Who could ever love me? I'm such a failure. Those are all like anti-truths from the Bible.
And it's grieving the Holy Spirit because God made us very special.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a powerful thing, our thoughts.
And the words we speak over ourselves.
Yeah. So we need to discover how to love ourselves and honor God in the same way, like together.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be like
congruent.
Yeah, I was going to say congruent. And I thought, well, what? They have to be intertwined.
Yeah. So today we've got 5 points that we want to talk about of what we believe it actually means to love ourselves and honor God at the same time. So the first one is to be aware of our self-talk, because like we've already said, I mean, the Bible says in Psalms that we were created perfectly in the image of God. You were knit together perfectly. So then when we go around talking all this hate over ourselves, that's not honoring to a God who created you with intention.
That's right. And I'm going to say, you were made exquisitely unique.
Mm-hmm.
I love that phrase, exquisitely unique, because if you think about how your whole body works, it's just so fascinating. It's mind-blowing, actually.
When we walk around shaming ourselves because there's things we don't like about ourselves, that's the opposite of loving ourselves in a way that honors God. And, I think the other aspect of it that we have to address is sometimes there are things about ourselves that are true that we need to address. If we look in the mirror and we see things about ourselves that we would like to work on or like to change, that's okay. But we can still speak the truth from the Bible over ourselves at the same time, right? Like, and let's use kind of a silly example, like with our hair. If we look in the mirror and our hair, like we've got bedhead, right? We haven't combed our hair. It's like sticking up in every direction possible. I know mine does that, especially when it's short, right? Like, it's okay to address the fact that your hair is messy. Yeah. That's the truth about looking in the mirror, right? Wow, I need to comb my hair, right? And so we can look at that and we can take steps to adjust that, right? We can go have a shower, we can do our hair, we can comb it, there's lots of things that we can do to address the fact that our hair is messy. But having messy hair does not equate to all of these identity statements that we then come up with when we see things about ourselves that we don't like, such as I'm a failure, I am ugly, I am unworthy, I am all of these things, right? So we can see sometimes that there's things about ourselves that we want to work on in order to love ourselves well. We want to take good care of ourselves. But at the same time, we cannot attach an identity statement, a false identity statement about ourselves to who we are because maybe we have messy hair.
Exactly. Very well said. And I'm going to say some of that is controlling the controllables.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can get in the shower. We can, wash our bodies. We can be clean. We don't have to be dirty and filthy. We can clean our clothes. We don't have to wear smelly clothes. We can wear deodorant. We don't have to smell.
We can live at a healthy weight. We can, there's lots of things that we can control.
That's right. And so we have to manage the things that we can manage, but we have to learn to love the things and work on the things that we can change, but work on loving who God made us to be. Like you might not like the shape that you are. Maybe you're an apple shape and you don't like it and you want to be a pear shape. Well, you're not going to change that. That is who God made you to be, uniquely, exquisitely unique. So we have to learn to love those things because we can't control them.
Exactly. So control what you can control to be the very best version of who God created you to be, because that is loving yourself.
That's right.
But watch the self-talk, because having messy hair doesn't make you all of these things that you end up telling yourself when you look in the mirror.
So that brings us to our next point, is stop comparing yourself to others.
Yeah.
Like, that is one of the ways that we can love ourselves, is to stop comparing.
Yeah. Oh boy.
It's a huge one. Like, we look at anywhere we go, we're looking at other people, we're looking at other women look at other women.
We don't even have to go anywhere. All we have to do is turn on the TV or start scrolling
true.
on our phones.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
I wish I was like that person. I wish I had that body. I wish I had that hair. I wish I had those clothes. I wish. Wow. We have to stop that.
Yeah.
And once we stop that and start focusing on what we do have and what we can do ourselves, the way God has intended it to be, well, then we are loving ourselves that way.
Yeah, because like my husband and I were actually talking yesterday. We have some friends that they're not worried about what other people are doing. They are happy in their own lives. They are happy when other people experience success. Because they're happy with their own lives.
That's right.
And it's so refreshing to be with people like that, because it's not this big comparison game. They don't care if you drive a fancier car than they do, because they're happy with what they have. They're happy with their life.
If you drive a fancy car,
yeah,
they're happy for others.
It's hard to find people like that, because most of us are so busy comparing everything.
And then jealousy creeps in.
Yeah.
Envy.
And all of these horrible things that go along with comparison, like you're saying. And so, like, are you the type of person who is just comparing every facet of your life? Because it comes across in how we interact with people, right? And it's hard to be with people who you constantly feel like they're comparing and, are you better than me? Are you thinner than me? Do you have a nicer car than me? Do you it's exhausting.
Exactly. And so we have a verse for this, and it's Galatians 6:4, and we're reading from the New Living Translation. And this is what it says: pay careful attention to your own work, for then you will get the satisfaction of a job well done, and you won't need to compare yourself to anyone else.
Yeah, like, let's focus on what we're doing. Let's focus on what God is doing in us and who God created us uniquely to be, instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing and how we stack up and measure up.
That's right, because when we find joy in our own journey, then we're happy and satisfied with our own life. And that in itself is loving ourselves.
So what else does it mean to honor God and love ourselves at the same time? Well, one of the big things that we believe it means is managing what we fill our minds with.
This can be from a variety of things.
Yeah, this could be from what you're watching on YouTube.
It could be what book you're reading.
It could be what you're watching on TV, the social media sites that you're scrolling through.
Magazines that you have in your house.
Yeah, like even your work environment is filling your mind with something, right? And so we have to start asking ourselves what we are putting in, because you might have heard us say this before, like that old saying, garbage in is garbage out. Like, there's a lot of truth to that, right? What we put in becomes like the overflow of our heart, and that's what starts to pour out of our mouth. But we also like to say garbage in, garbage stays, garbage has babies, garbage multiplies, because it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
And then it explodes.
Yeah, and like what we think about expands. And so what we are putting into our minds really kind of becomes who we are and what we think about and what we talk about.
Yeah. And so what we need to do is, if we're having garbage fill our minds, we need to get rid of the garbage, get rid of the trash. How do we do that? Well, we have to, first of all, be aware, which we talked about earlier. We have to be aware that this is going on. And then we can start to get rid of the toxicity. That's toxic thoughts. And the Bible tells us to replace those things with things that are good and lovely and have good rapport, and think on things that are noble. There are other things that we can think about. And you and I often talk about, sometimes we can't control the first thought that pops into our mind, but we can then take that thought captive and replace it with thinking of good things.
Yeah. In fact, in 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5, it says, we destroy every proud obstacle that keeps people from knowing God. We capture their rebellious thoughts and teach them to obey Christ. So we got to capture those rebellious thoughts. All of that crap that we're busy putting into our bodies, we have to capture it and stop it and flip the script to things that are good and true and honorable and noble and righteous and of good rapport, from Philippians.
That's right. So that will change our thought pattern. And if we are aware, the more we become aware, the quicker we can change those thoughts. And then pretty soon, like, you'll see how the trajectory of your life changes, because you're not in the negative flow, you're in the positive flow. And instead of going down, you're going to go up.
Yeah, exactly. And so like managing what we fill our minds with is as much about taking those thoughts captive and replacing them. It's as much about that as it is with the step even before that, managing what we are putting in, right? Managing what we're watching, what we're reading, who we're hanging out with, managing that input as well. Because if we take both of those things, like if we manage the inputs and then we manage the thoughts, you're right. Like our life is moving in the direction of our strongest thoughts. And so boom, it's going to change.
Because pretty soon the overflow of the heart is going to be positive rather than the negative.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're putting the garbage in, all of a sudden the garbage is going to spew out. Put in the positive, the good, lovely thoughts, pretty soon the good is going to flow out of your heart.
Yeah. And just an easy example I just thought of with that is like, if you spend your time with people who curse regularly, pretty soon you're cursing regularly, because it's like, it's what you're hearing, it's what you're surrounded with. And if you take that out and you're not hearing it all the time anymore, slowly it kind of starts to exit out of your vocabulary too, because you're managing what you're putting in. And so ultimately what you put in comes out.
And that actually leads to our next point, which is surrounding yourselves with people who are lifting you up rather than bringing you down. It's like you just said, if you're hanging out with people who are swearing all the time, pretty soon those swear words are going to be in your mind. But if you're hanging out with people who are talking about the good things that God is doing and praising God for, you know, answered prayer, and you're lifting people up in prayer, petitioning on their behalf, pretty soon that's what you're going to be talking about. You are a product of the people that you hang out with. Even the Bible talks about this. Even the Bible talks about this in Proverbs 13:20, where it says, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Now, who wants to get in trouble? Not me. As women of faith, we don't want to be hanging out with fools. We want to be hanging out with people who are going to be giving us wise counsel so that our lives are more productive. And I'm going to say, if we're hanging out with good people, we're going to be loving ourselves more. We're going to be happier, more joyful.
Exactly. So learning to love ourselves and honor God at the same time, like it matters in all of these different arenas of our life, right? From how we talk to ourselves, to the things that we're putting into our minds, to the comparison trap, to surrounding ourselves with the right people. So yeah, what does it mean to honor God and love ourselves? Well, it means, like we already said, surrounding ourselves with people who are going to lift us up and not tear us down and not drag us into like things, into areas where we don't want to be.
And then vice versa, we're going to do the same for others. We're going to be lifting other people up with our positivity.
Yeah.
That is love. I mean, I'm going to say the Bible is the commentary on love. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, but he is also love. And love, we all know 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter. Love is patient. Love is kind. So that's what we want to be focusing on. We want to be sharing love. We want to be sharing kindness. And that is loving ourselves.
Yeah. And I think that's our last point of what it means to honor God and love ourselves, is to apply all of those things that you're just talking about from 1 Corinthians 13 to ourselves, right? Let's be patient with ourselves because we are a work in progress. Let's be kind to ourselves and not speak all that hatred over ourselves. And in fact, my shirt today, you can't really see it on camera, but it actually is 1 Corinthians 13 verse 4. Love is patient, love is kind. It's a great shirt.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that really is part of what it means to love ourselves, is to like treat other people how we would want to be treated, treat ourselves how we would treat other people. We kind of said that one already, but it's such a valid point. Like, you got to ask yourselves, if you talk to your friends the way that you're talking to yourself, would they stick around? And so we shouldn't be talking to ourselves that way either.
That's right. We have to embrace who God made us to be. And he didn't make us to be believers walking around in a cloud. He wants us to be sharing his love. So in order to be sharing love, we have to love ourselves.
Yeah, because if you've ever been around somebody who hates themselves, like, would you want to be part of what they're part of? No, they're such a drag, because it's like they're so down in the dumps. They're so hard on themselves. They're so negative. Like, you know, we want to be a light on a hill. We're the salt of the earth. And it's hard to be that when we don't love ourselves. And again, not love ourselves in the egotistical, vain, vanity way that many people think when they hear the term self-love. And that's why we wanted to make this video today, because as Christian women, we need to love ourselves and honor God simultaneously. Those two things can be done at the same time, but we have to think about what that means. And really, that's what these 5 points are.
That's right. It's about our overall health, really, because it's mind, body, and soul. And loving ourselves means taking care of ourselves as we would want to care for our children. Like, we want to give our children the best that they can have. We want to give them the good nutrients for their body. We want to make sure that they're exercising and running about and burning up energy. And we want to make sure that they sleep well. These are all things that we would want to do we want our friends to experience that. We want our children to experience that. So we have to do that for ourselves as well.
Yeah. Learning to love ourselves as Christian women is something that takes practice. It takes work. It's not something that you're just like instantly going to be good at if you haven't been doing these things.
Yeah, we have to develop these things.
Exactly. So work at developing these things in yourself and see how your life starts to change.
In fact, change one thing. Like, say something positive about yourself today. Like, go look in the mirror, tell yourself one positive thing. You might find it very difficult to do, but find something. It might be, I like the color of my eyes, but find something.
If you're still here watching, we'd love to invite you to subscribe to our channel. Please like this video and put a comment below telling us which of these 5 points you are going to start working on today and this week going ahead.
As always, we like to end our videos by saying, remember, you are a beautiful woman chosen for greatness.
And we believe in you.